Yeah, thanks, Pat. Man, this is gonna be exciting. All we've been waiting for this for all summer long, I feel like. So a lot of fun stuff has been happening. But yeah, I'm gonna start with the AFC North, which, man, this division is gonna be nuts, I feel like. I'll start with the bottom and kind of work my way up there, kind of, leave you all in suspense there. And the team I'll start with. This team can either win the entire Super Bowl, like win the whole thing, or be like maybe win 5 games or something like that. This definitely is going to be a tough division, but yeah, this team right here is the Browns that I got finishing last year. A lot of question marks with Deshaun Watson, right? Didn't perform the best when he did play. I think like the last half of the season when he was with the Browns. Um, but this roster is loaded, and I think that's what kind of makes me think like this team could win the Super Bowl. It's one of the best rosters out there, both on the offensive side and on the defensive side as well. They added Za'Darius Smith on the defensive side to play opposite of Myles Garrett. They didn't see too much production from Clowney, so adding in Za'Darius Smith, who had like 10 sacks, I believe, last season, to combine that with their killer offensive line, as well as Nick Chubb, Amari, Cooper, Elijah Moore, full season with them. It's like this team could definitely make a push, but I kind of have them going like 7 games, 8 games, I think, is what I have them. Just it's a very tough division, and very competitive there. So I just have them finishing last. Steelers, I have finishing third here. Great defense, I think. And saw some nice movement coming from both Kenny Pickett and the offensive side. I just think they got one more season of seasoning to basically mature a little bit and get more continuity there, just to figure things out. So have them going third there. And then my AFC team that I always like to cheer for. I went back and forth here, but I'm going with the Ravens. Adding in, Todd Monken as the offensive coordinator coming from Georgia, to kind of spell off the rule and gruel of Greg Roman and that kind of anemic offense, just like pounding and running and making Lamar Jackson run a lot over there. So it'll be interesting. I think this will be an interesting season. With basically, Lamar Jackson. I think this roster on the offensive side is like the most talented weapons he's ever had before. His MVP season, right, where he was healthy, he didn't have too much, honestly, there. I think Snead was like his number two wideout or whatever. And, yeah, now he's got Odell Beckham, Aguilar as well. And then Zay Flowers, who everybody's excited about, I think is going to be something. Defensive side, though, younger, although maybe healthier. They've always battled injuries, I felt like. So, David Ojabo, that'll be interesting what happens with him. A lot of people thought he was going to be like a top 5 pick last season and got hurt. So, him paired up, I think, then with Owe, like on the opposite side, like that could be, an interesting combination there with the O brothers, on the sides there. So, yeah, and full season out with Roquan Smith on the defensive side as well. It's like, just a lot of unknowns, but some things are still intact there. Marlon Humphrey, one of the best corners, and then Marcus Williams too. So secondary is fairly solid. Cornerback, Rakia Sin, maybe not the greatest, but I don't think he'll hurt the Ravens here. And last but not least, got to pick the Bengals here. This is probably the most talented Bengals team I feel like since Burrow's been with them. So for me, adding in Orlando Brown there, I think was a key signing, and they still kept it intact. Higgins, Chase, and Boyd there at wide out. So for me, I gotta pick the Bengals here. And then yeah, their defense, like they have a young secondary, but it's really talented too. So yeah, for me, gotta pick the Bengals here. All right, Pat, what do you think? Do you agree? Do you have the Browns winning? Like, want to hear what you think?
I mean, I'm not going that crazy. I think I have the Browns above the Steelers in terms of the 3-4 parts of the standings. I think that Pittsburgh is on the rise. I like their defense as well. I'm wondering how much Kenny Pickett can bring to the table this year in year two. Can he take an additional step with Pickens and get Diontae Johnson on the board with a couple touchdowns this year? I think he had zero last year. They're well coached. It's a strong organization. I did feel like Cleveland went out and addressed some serious needs on their defensive line. Like you said, with Za'Darius Smith, they also got interior defensive lineman Dalvin Tomlinson. They went out in the draft and grabbed. Actually, I should correct myself in that they grabbed Houston's Okoronkwo on the defensive line as well. He was a guy who was very strong to kind of finish out the second half last year in terms of pressures and blitzes and such. So it's like they've really kind of focused that need in there on the pass rush, which, when you're going up against Burrow and especially a guy like Lamar, you're going to need to have that fortified. That said, there is something to be said about Deshaun Watson and kind of his struggles, I guess, second half of last year, not looking like the guy who came over, from the Houston Texans prior to suspension and everything like that. So, I don't know. Does he have the grit? Does he have the moxie to get him over the top in this type of a division? I think that's going to be pretty tough. I'm with you in terms of the top two. I think Cincinnati is the cream of this division. I do think, Baltimore is probably coming with a better defense this year than Cincinnati, but in the same sense, I have some trust issues when it comes to Lamar Jackson. I think part of it is his health. You just never know how many games he's going to be there. And I think the other part is, he does have these new weapons now, but, he's had Marquise Brown in the past. He's had other guys that, have looked like threats, like even a Rashad Bateman. I don't know if he's gotten the most out of him just yet so far in his career. So, he really needs to, take that additional step as a passer, maybe just a sharper quarterback, even if it's not just all with the pass game itself. It's just, I think he's got to bring a little bit more intelligence to the table to be able to kind of get out of scramble mode and more or less utilize the weapons around him, especially as he gets older. So I have both those top two going into the playoffs for sure, but I think this is going to be a dogfight of a division for sure.
Yeah, yeah, and I 100% agree with the Ravens and Lamar. They've always battled the injuries. I think that's always been the blocker for them the past couple of seasons. And then Lamar in the playoffs with the pressure against a really competitive team just hasn't been able to get over the hump there. But I do wonder how much of that has to do with losing some key players on the offensive side from injury too, and also on the defensive side as well. So, but with this team on the defensive side, younger, not as experienced, I think is the biggest question there. So it's not the most talented team, but if they can just be healthy, this Ravens team could definitely make a run for it. But yeah, still some question marks there. And then the Bengals though, you got to tip your cap towards them and being able to retain Higgins, going into the season here. So that should be a fun team to watch, I think.